And then record. We're doing parallel and perpendicular with that point slope. I just want to remind you what point slope is. So remember that was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I think that parallel and perpendicular are a lot easier with point slope than they were when we did it before. Okay, the other thing that you need to remember is what we do with parallel and perpendicular. All right, so if it asks for parallel, that's the same slope. So you use the same slope that they give you. Perpendicular, we're going to flip and change. And if you can't see it, I'll move it in just a second. Flip and change. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through and make these equations in point slope, and then I'm going to show you how to put it back in slope intercept, which is y equals mx plus b, because I think you may have some of these on your homework, but they're really, really simple, and you literally already know how to do it. You just don't realize you do. Okay, so we're going to start with the first ones. The first 5 are parallel. So remember, parallel means same slope. So the only thing that we need is the slope from the equation. That's the only thing we need. This is just like yesterday, your x1, y1, and your slope. It is exactly like yesterday, okay? So when I write my equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, I'm just plugging in the things I know. What is my y coordinate? So I'm going to do y minus 4 equals, what's my slope from the equation? So negative 7 over 4. And then x, what's my x1? And why is it plus? Because we change the signs. That's it. What? This one? Yeah. Nope. The only thing you need the equation for is to get the slope. That's it. It is really easy. Okay. So if we look at the next one, and again, I told you we're going to go back and solve them for y in a few minutes. We're not going to do all of them, but I'll show you a couple of them just so you guys can see it. It says parallel. So that's going to be our m. We keep it the same. And here's your coordinate for x1, y1. We're plugging into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And remember, all you're doing in the equation is changing the sign of the point. So we have y minus, we have 3 as our y1. So in the point is a positive 3. In the equation, it should be minus 3. Our m is the negative 3/4. And then we have a negative 2 as our coordinate. So in the problem or in the equation, it's going to be a plus 2. That's it. And you're done. Okay, don't overthink these. Okay, like I told you, you're going to have plenty of time to do your homework. So if there's anything you're missing once you do your homework, go back and do that as well. If you've not taken your test, I'd rather you do those first. Okay. Look at the next one. It says parallel, which means the same slope. So we're going to use that for m. Here's your x1, y1. We're going to plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We have a positive 4 as a point. So in the equation, it has to be a negative 4. It just makes it a little bit easier to think about it like that. All right. Our m was the 3/2 from the equation they gave us. And then we have a positive 2 point. So in the equation, make sure that it's opposite and it's negative 2. That is it. Absolutely. The next one is parallel, and all we need from that equation is the slope. Parallel means the same, so we're going to leave it alone. And then we have x1, y1. We're going to plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus 3. What's our m? 7/3. And then inside of parentheses? Perfect. Because we have a positive 3x, it's going to be minus 3 in the equation. One more parallel, and then we'll switch to perpendicular. So it says parallel to y equals 1/2 x. We just need the 1/2. This is your x1, y1. Just give me 1 second. We're going to plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what do we change it to? A positive. So remember yesterday that we did it like this, y minus negative 2, and we said that a minus minus was a positive. Okay, so it's just easier to kind of like, I'll always call these little shortcuts cheater methods, so it's kind of smarter to do it that way instead of doing all the work. So our m was 1/2. And then we have x minus negative 4. Instead of minus minus, we would do plus. Okay. So that's just showing you the work from yesterday, but we learned that trick yesterday, but we don't have to do it today. Okay. All right, so then at the top, I told you perpendicular meant what? Read your notes from the top. Flip and change. So we're going to take this fraction. We've already done this before. We're going to flip it over and change the sign. I would suggest if it's anything you can reduce, go ahead and reduce it. So this is actually a positive 7. This is going to be your m now. Everything else is the same, x1, y1. So the only thing we're doing is changing the slope. We're going to flip and change the slope. Everything else is exactly the same. We'll talk about it. It depends on what kind of line it is. Remember that. Okay, so I'll show you in just a second. I'm going to actually probably skip it to the last. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Our y is a positive 3, so in the equation it has to be a negative 3. Our new slope is that 7. And then we have a negative 3x, so in the equation it should be a positive 3. Right? We're going to skip number 7 for a minute. We're going to go ahead and do the other two, and then I'll talk to you about number 7. It's a special one, okay? So we'll talk about it in a minute. So let's go to number 8. It says perpendicular. So we're going to take this slope, flip it over, and change the sign. So instead of 1/5, it's going to be 5/1. Instead of negative, it'll be positive, which reduces to just 5. That's your m. Your coordinate is your x1, y1. And we're plugging it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Our y coordinate is a negative 3. So in the equation, it should be positive 3. Our new slope was 5. Our x is negative. So in the equation, it should be positive. Yep. That's it. That's literally all you're doing today. Are you still trying to tell me number 7? Okay, number 9, check it out. Perpendicular. Just worried about our slope. A negative 2/1 or just negative 2. You're doing fine. This is your x1, y1. So your y-coordinate is 0. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. I'm just going to put it there for a minute, and then I'll show you how to work with it. Our new m was -2. Our x is a +2, so in the equation it should be -2. You do not need the 0. So this equation is actually going to be y equals -2 times x minus 2. Oh, that would have been bad, wouldn't it? Yep. Flip it and change it to positive. Flip and change. So it's going to go to 2/5. And it's going to be a positive, and I can't reduce that, so that's going to be my m. This is going to be your x1, y1. Your y-coordinate again is 0, so it really doesn't matter. Your m is 2/5. Your x-coordinate is a -5, so in the equation it should be +5. Remember that the 0 doesn't matter. So we just take it off. And that's your point slope form. Okay. We're going to go back to number 7, and we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to do a couple things. We're going to solve a couple of these for y so that you guys can see how to put it back in slope intercept form. So the parallel and perpendicular are a lot easier in point slope than they are in y equals mx plus b, which we worked with last unit. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get it back in that form. So this says perpendicular to x equals 0. So remember what I told you, x equals 0 if we graph it, or any x value is going to be a vertical line. So I'm just going to graph a random one. This is not x equals 0. If we flip and change it, or we make a perpendicular, it's going to be a horizontal line. Okay, it's going to be a horizontal. So that would be your flip and change. So what does that mean? Now it goes through the y-axis. And what is our y-coordinate? That's all you do. So if it were parallel, you use the same letter. So you would use x. If it's perpendicular, you use the opposite letter. And then you just pick whichever coordinate it is. That's it. All right, so now what I want to do is turn these into y equals mx plus b. That's slope intercept form. So I'm going to go to number 6. I'm going to use a different color so you guys can see it. And I'm going to change it into y equals mx plus b. I don't think that you have to do that on your homework, but you might on your test, or you might see some that are in y equals form. So how would I change this into y equals? The first thing that you would do is distribute. Okay, so I'm going back to number 6, and I'm going to distribute it. You get y minus 3 equals 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 3 is 21. And then the last thing you're going to do is add the 3. So if we were trying to put it in that form, it would be y equals 7x plus 24. That's it. So distribute and then move the number with y. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. All right. So if it says put it in slope intercept, solve for y. If it says solve for y, distribute first. You get y plus 3 equals 5 times x is 5 times 1 is 5. We did some of these yesterday. And then subtract the 3. And it can only go with this 5. It can't go with this one because that one's got an x. Cancels out. Then you get y equals 5x plus 2. So this is in y equals form, or slope intercept, because it gives you the slope and the y-intercept. All right. If you look at the last two, they're already in y equals, but they still have the distribution that you have to do. So on these, you still have to distribute. So -2 times x is -2x. Negative times a negative makes a +4. All right. So let's look at one with a fraction. Let's look at number 5. We'll get number 5. And this will be the last one we do. I just want to show you how to do this. We're going to distribute. We get y plus 2 equals 1/2 x. Half of 4 is 2. Finish it out, subtract 2. So it doesn't matter if it has a fraction, it should come out pretty nice. So 1/2 x, and then 2 minus 2 is 0. So you can leave it just like this. And this is just in case you get some multiple choice or something. Okay? Yeah, distribute self. Is everybody good? All right. So that's all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.